Sweet. All right. Welcome back. Radio Rap Reel, episode 2, R3. What is going on?
R3 podcast, back in business, feeling good. What's up, DJ Mayhem?
Sweet. Just a reminder, DJ Mayhem, Matt Mayhem here in the building, in the flesh, ready to talk rap.
Yep.
It's been an interesting couple of months. As you know, we had episode 1 back in like April or so.
Yeah. Well,
Is that about it?
yeah, it was just after March, so April.
So this is kind of like our quarter 2 summary. And I think there's a lot to talk about, just as much as the first quarter. I was kind of worried coming off that hot start to 2020 that we'd kind of fizzle off, and maybe there wouldn't be a lot to talk about. But I was really impressed. What do you think?
Yeah, like April and May, maybe like halfway through May, I was thinking I've only got a couple albums I'd want to talk about. But then it seemed like by June, the Spotify album saved list started piling up, and I was like, I gotta get all these,
So I know last time after we finished our conversation, I had told you one of my goals was to limit the number of albums that I listened to.
Yeah.
So I did a count. First quarter, meaning the first 3 months of the year, I listened to 56 albums. This quarter, I listened to 58. So I didn't do a good job.
You're still averaging like almost one a day or something like that, right?
Oh, man. It's just because when I work, I love to listen. But I say we dive right in. Duranman, kick it off for us. I want you to start it off with, let's start off with some of our hotter albums of the year.
Yeah.
What do you got for us?
Yeah, we'll do the same kind of breakdown we did last time. So first thing I want to dive into is it felt like right after our last podcast dropped, we got the new Toronto 3 by Tory Lanez.
Toronto 3.
Before I say anything else, I want to say I try so hard to not be a Tory Lanez fan. Like, I hate the guy. He's one of those people like Chris Brown, like a bunch of other rappers or artists. I don't want to support them because I don't like them as people. But Tory Lanez, even though he's an asshole, he's a really talented artist. I can't deny that.
What the fuck?
Yeah. So the new Toronto 3 front to back, amazing album. Like, I want to say right off the bat in this episode, top 3 albums 2020 for me so far.
Wow. Okay.
So I had to get to it first. For one, if you know Tory Lanez's discography, the production to me is just crazy. It's epic. It's orchestral. You heard it.
It had the new Toronto feel. If you go back to the new Toronto, the original, he had some very big tracks on there too. I mean, he had the track with Meek, a couple other crazy tracks. I'll have to pull up the track list real quick and we can talk to them specifically.
Sure. Yeah, man. Like, what I think of is Diego. Do you remember his single Diego?
Diego.
Yeah, I think of the build up from instrumentals like that. That's what I heard with tracks like Back in Business and like Stupid Again and like Pricey and Spicy. It just you hear this like surge. He uses like violins, like pianos, bass, chimes and stuff. Like, I don't even know what's going on. I could have sworn I heard like organs and stuff in it too. It just feels like you're in some gothic orchestra or something, some epic, almost like a movie soundtrack type of thing. So I'm amazed by the production, but it's matched with his vocals. I mean, the mixing, I'm sure now compared to the last podcast or even like last year, you're much more familiar with what goes into mixing a voice to make it sound more crisp, right? And more professional, more like radio ready.
Yeah.
And I don't know if you'd agree, but I think somehow Tory always sounds like incredible on record, like larger than life.
He really does. Every once in a while, I'll go up on YouTube and I feel like watching other rappers record is always interesting. And he seems to just go in the booth and it's so natural. He really does have a great voice naturally. And I think that's something that's key to his success over the years is he doesn't have to, he's not using crazy auto-tune, even though I know he uses it a little bit, but he balances that singing and rapping better than anybody.
Yeah, I mean, going off your point with him sounding like naturally, like his natural voice just coming through, and it just sounding kind of off the cuff. I mean, you remember when he had his beef with Joyner Lucas, right? They were
Yeah,
just back and forth. I feel like that shows just how much raw talent and going into the booth and laying it down that you hear from them, because it would be like within a 24-hour span that they'd be able to drop their music, right?
yeah,
In terms of just getting it right, written, mixed, produce, all of that happening within a day.
which is amazing, unbelievable.
Definitely. Um,
Uh, so I'm looking back real quick. I don't want to spend too much time on it, but New Toronto. This is the third of the series. He has two more before this. Lord Knows was a big track. Machiavelli. Do you remember the track Machiavelli?
yeah. Wait,
Oh,
so Lord Knows was a sample on Meek Mill's album?
yeah, exactly. Yeah, it was like some crossover track between the two. So he's had a lot of these New Torontos are huge for, like you said, that
Machiavelli,
orchestral production.
for sure. Dude, Machiavelli was one of the first songs I heard by him. I remember us listening to that like sophomore year.
That gets me pumped up.
Oh, definitely. Yeah, he's got that pump up kind of music. And then like jumping into the lyricism real quick, I thought it was cool how he talks about, the classic made it from nothing kind of stuff and like now we ballin' sort of things,
Yeah,
which I think is classic to rap and to an album like this, celebrating the come up and whatever. Just the confidence that comes through with the guy is crazy. And him sampling McGregor, I'm sure you remember that bit.
yeah,
Uh, that's from the start of Stupid Again, right? Just before the beat drops from Stupid Again. That was,
one of them. Yeah,
yeah,
yeah. I think it might be Stupid Again.
yeah. And then when he puts the breaks in the instrumental and like stops it real quick to like accentuate the vocals, I love that. It's just that needs to happen more in hip hop. I feel like.
Yeah,
Um,
that's a great technique.
Accent.
I have some criticisms for this album, believe it or not.
What?
Um,
Let's hear it.
so I saved. Don't get me wrong. Want you to know this. This is one of those tier one full body albums for me. I really liked this, and I saved 8 or 9 tracks from it.
Okay.
So it's a solid album. There's some he definitely has some bangers. He definitely has some chart topping radio friendly songs like Who Needs Love.
Yeah.
I liked that one. He's great melody on that song. And he always comes through with unique samples. I love that about him. But once again, my struggle with Tory Lanez is replay value on an album.
You weren't feeling it this time.
I feel like I expect he's on that A level. He's top tier in rap, right? Would you put him? I put him right there with the best of them. And so when you're on that level, I have to compare you to other rappers in that tier. And I expect that you have 2 or 3 songs that are hits on a not only a lyrical level, but you make it work at a grander scale. And I just feel like he didn't have a hit besides, I mean, Broken a Minute was the biggest song from this album, I think, as far as like success. And it was only 2 minutes long, man. So that bothers me a little bit. And I think he needs to, I know he's a huge fan of the no features thing. He doesn't like to have a lot of.
I was gonna say one of my favorite tracks was Accidents Happen. And granted, it wasn't because of the feature, but I thought that was one of the hardest tracks on the album.
With Lil TJ. Yeah, and I saved that one too. That was fire. But I think these bigger name rappers, they need to let some people shine. And I don't like to compare, and I'm not going to make a direct reference to another rapper, but there are some other rappers in top tier that make really good use of their features. And I don't think Tory does that yet. And maybe it says something to his attitude and to the way people perceive him amongst the rap community. Like you said, you think he's a kind of a jerk. Maybe other rappers think so. Maybe he can't. Maybe he's not getting the features, But I don't really know. Point is, I would like to see him get more features.
Okay. No, that's fair. Yeah, especially with his pop appeal kind of sound. I mean, what was that? He did a track with French Montana a while back, right? That was a huge hit.
French.
Yeah.
French. Really?
Yeah,
No.
no. I just mean in terms of like
Yeah, I get it.
people that he
Yeah, it was
collaborated
like
with
Ice
that
Cold or
really
something like that.
technical.
Yeah. Yeah.
No, it was a different one, but yeah, and like with his platform, he could definitely, especially people from Canada, I'm sure,
Yeah.
could blow them up.
All right, let's move on to the next album. Keep things moving here.
Yeah, for sure. All My Heroes Are Dead, R.A. the Rugged Man. So I remember when I first hit you up about this album, I told you something along the lines of, "This is the most lyrical rap album I've heard in years." Like I
Yeah.
stand by that. I've listened to it again many times since I first heard it. Definitely like one of the most lyrical albums. And when I say lyrical, I mean not just tons of lyrics, not just mad syllables and words and bars,
Yeah.
but like all of them actually having a message and like a meaning, and it all feeling necessary in the context of the album. Like the whole album felt like chapters from a journal, like a story. You know, each song was a story. Each song had like a very distinct purpose, and I feel like I don't know if it's more so now or if it always was like this, but there's so many rap songs that it's just bars. There's no need for a story. I mean, I've made plenty of songs like that myself,
Yeah.
which are always fun, but I feel like it speaks to the art of the genre when you get music that puts you in the shoes of the artist. So listening to this album, I felt like I knew who R.A. the Rugged Man was and is, and even might, will be, So yeah, he comes across as before. I mean, I've heard his material before. I've been a fan of him for a while now. I hadn't heard him in a while. Like I think his last album was like 2013, I want to say.
Yeah.
No, maybe 2015. It's been several years since he dropped. So
Mm-hmm.
I was really excited when I saw this and I heard it, and I was like, I wasn't prepared for this this level of lyricism.
Yeah.
It's like a wall, and I wasn't sure about telling you because I know it's not like your kind of subgenre of hip hop.
Mm.
It's very boom bap. It's very 90s based. It's very like forget a chorus or a melody or anything like that. I don't
Yeah.
need it to sound pretty. It's definitely not made for any club setting. It's just hip hop meant to make you feel, make you think, make you maybe yearn for the days of when things were simpler.
Yeah.
I personally love the song Dragonfire, which had Ghostface Killer, and in the hook they got the woo tay, man.
Classic.
That's I'd love to see that part in concert. That was awesome.
Yeah.
So for
This
the
one's
old
no.
school hip hop fan like me, this was a huge victory of an album, and I want to say it was like my second favorite to come out this quarter. Or what were you gonna say?
Yeah, I agree. If you're, an RA fan or a fan of his era of where his prime was in general, this is a big deal.
Oh, yeah.
And I can appreciate my favorite rappers will cite RA, you know what I mean, as one of the greatest lyricists of all time. So I have respect there. It's a little out of bounds for me. I hit the nail on the head. It's too lyrical. I need a little bit of swag in it. I need it to be, I need the production. Same thing that I cited with Eminem's album last podcast. I like that M's lyrical. I also like that he's adventurous with his sound. You know what I mean? And he works with the producers of today. When you don't work with the producers of today, it almost sounds outdated. And so again, I can appreciate it. I didn't save any songs from this album, even though I listened to it from front to back. I didn't save any of the songs from this album, but like I said, I appreciate, his level of lyricism and his storytelling ability, top notch, unprecedented. So
Yeah, that one track it reminded me of the M album where M wrote from the perspective of the shooter from Vegas. Or a couple tracks like this on Rugged Man's album where he speaks from somebody's shoes, somebody's perspectives, and it ends up being like more of a statement on our society and stuff like that.
Yeah.
So,
and it's another thing that I appreciated from the album, at least, was the fact that he's speaking as an older rapper. I feel like, and I've mentioned this to you before, we haven't really gotten, our favorite rappers are going to get old. You know what I mean? And then what happens? What do they start talking about? And one of the tracks on here that I did like, but again, didn't save, was Legendary Loser. And he's talking about how he used to be, you know, he used to be this deadbeat pretty much. And then now he's talking about how successful he is.
Yeah, no, I agree with that. In fact, the track right after that, the third track on the album, Golden Oldies, he's talking about him dating a younger girl and like her being from a younger generation. And just all the music that he grew up on and all the like boxing, you know, era that he's into and all this other stuff that he's all about and how she can't relate and like this difference in generations and kind of stuff. Those are just two of I think several tracks on the album where he kind of takes pride in being old. He's unashamed of it. He just talks about how shameless he is in general and how he like, you know, he thinks that everyone's too soft these days and he is who he is, lays it on the table kind of thing. So I think that's really respectable. I think everyone respects that kind of rapper, you know, especially when they've got they can walk the walk, so to speak. Also the Immortal Technique track near the end. I mean, man,
that's legendary for you.
It's been a while since I heard RA the Rugged Man. It's been ages, eons since I last heard Immortal Technique. And if you can't tell from the CDs, I'm like the biggest, these are signed by the way. I'm the biggest Immortal Technique fan. Like I'll cite him as my third favorite rapper of all time. I went to his concert, I got to meet him. I'm a huge Immortal Technique fan. To hear him Immortal Tech rapping for the first time since I want to say 2012 is when The Martyr came out. I think The Martyr came out in 2011, man. It's been almost a decade since Immortal Technique put anything on wax. Goes to show you how close these guys are just as friends.
That's cool,
to hop on as a feature. Maybe he's had a couple other verses since then, but it's been ages and he didn't disappoint. It's a classic type of Immortal Technique verse, just loaded with like socio-political lyricism. It's crazy and it's vicious the way he spits. It's like it's vile. I love it. It's amazing. So 19th track on the album, big fan of that. Also to counter your point about the old school like boom bap production, that's like 99% of the album, no question. The first one though, I don't know if you remember, the first track actually switched the beat up a couple times and one of them was like a trap kind of beat. And it was weird hearing that, but I thought he still flowed over it like pretty well.
Wicked cool.
You gotta admit he can flow on pretty much everything. That Afro track, that Gotta Be Dope, that was like Eminem Strange Music level speed rap. So it was cool. And then like halfway through RA's verse, he goes, "Man, fuck the fast rap, I'll do this." You know, he just like cuts it off like, "All right, I know you're tired of that. Let me go back to like a normal pace."
He can switch up like that on a dime, so that's respectable.
For sure. So, I mean, not for the faint of heart kind of album. Like, you got to be really seriously into this kind of underground, heavy, super lyrical stuff. But I thought it was a super quality rap album. Definitely worth checking out if you're that kind of fan.
Definitely.
All
right, what else you got?
Emmanuel. So, I wanted to touch upon Anuel AA's Emmanuel. I wanted to touch upon some Latin trap. I know I talked Bad Bunny's album last time. I thought this was the album of the same proportion that came out this quarter. At least that crossed my radar. Bit of a reggaeton influence. It's like there's a lot of overlap, I think, these days between Latin trap and reggaeton. I know that you had a point when you heard the album about the production on that front. I think that any reggaeton fan might recognize the classic reggaeton beat, which I argued it applies to any genre. Like I remember after you told me that, I went through all my reggae songs, like the genre reggae, and I was like, these all sound the same if you listen to it on like the most basic level. Like the I don't think I could imitate it with my mouth, but like the basic sound that you hear with the instrumentation, I want to say like the bass guitar, whatever it is that they do, to a basic level, it's all built off of the same kind of principle. But that's like kind of what makes up the genre. I think you could say the same about pop music. You could say the same about rock. I'm sure like to electronic to a wide degree. Like there is stuff that defines the genre. And definitely when it comes to like the production on this, a lot of it might sound similar if you're not used to hearing the genre. But I feel like I'm deep enough into reggaeton that I could distinguish each beat. I didn't think that they sounded the same, to be honest, at all. In fact, I was really impressed by a track on the album called Bandido, where they kind of did an interpolation of a J Balvin song, which I thought flowed really well. I don't know, were you about to make a point on that?
Yeah, I'm not going to get into that too much. I think, like you said, I just need to listen to more of this genre. I really appreciate this genre. It's funny. I'm going through my music in the car with some friends, and every fourth or fifth song is something either Latin trap or reggaeton. And it is just because I'm listening to more artists like that, J Balvin, Anuel, Bad Bunny, and they're just kind of making their way into my playlists. I definitely think that this genre is infiltrating rap in a major way, and I love it. I think it's really great. I don't even understand what they're saying, but it's that energy. It just emphasizes that point that I always make, is that I love the lyricist, but I love the energy of rap. And when you combine those, that's when I get my favorite artists, you know? So
For sure. On that point, I'm sure you could recognize the energy that came through with Estrés Postraumático, the second to last track on the album.
yeah, really good stuff. Like you said, that beat drop is really, it hits, you know?
Legendary. It's like, I want to say it's my favorite beat drop of the year.
Yeah.
I have to go through the quarter one ones again, but dude, every time that hits, it just gives me goosebumps. It's insane.
Yeah.
That beat's right there.
When I listen to this type of album, though, it's really hard for me to dissect it analytically, simply because there's nothing more there's nothing more I can say than, wow, that hit hard. And that's it, because I'm not listening to it for lyrical content. I'm listening to it for flows, but beyond that, it's more of a feel with this subgenre. I did like a lot of tracks on here.
Not to take away from his lyricism, but I wouldn't call him like the most lyrical of artists. I think it really is, like most trap, it's more about the sound than it is the lyricism.
Yeah.
One track title that jumped out to me just before I even heard the album, where I was skimming through it, was let me see if I can pull it. Track 12, because Los hombres no lloran, like asking like men don't cry. So it's him kind of like giving a more vulnerable side to him. But overall, yeah, it's more just, you know, flexing type stuff, which I'm a big fan of. I thought it was cool. He had a Lil Wayne verse on Ferrari.
Yeah, I didn't save that track, but it just didn't seem like a fit.
How about the Bad Bunny features? I thought those were two of the best on the album. And I remember by the second Bad Bunny feature, and by the time I saved that second one as well, I'm like, can Bad Bunny go wrong? Really? Like, does the guy drop a bad song ever? He got Tego Calderon on track 4.
I saved Antes y Después. I can't speak to this one in detail just because I haven't had enough time to sit with it. Gotcha. It's one that I'm gonna have to go back to a couple of times. I feel like.
Not long. It's an hour and a half. So it's a pretty long album.
Yeah.
But I saved, like, I can't even count. I want to say like 7 tracks off of it. 8,
Damn.
9. I saved like almost half the album. So I thought it was very worth hearing. The features, I mean, Travis Barker, Tego Calderon, Bad Bunny, Enrique Iglesias, Farruko. This guy's obviously
connected. He's connected within this community.
Yeah, and you were talking like Tory Lanez, like A-list or whatever, just top tier.
For this subgenre, yeah.
Yeah, he's proved it with his past projects, but I would say definitely didn't disappoint with Emmanuel.
And I love his ad lib. It's like a way cooler Gucci ad lib.
Yeah. Oh yeah, fair point. Let me make last 2 more album picks real quick. Everything by KAAN that came out this year, which I think is 3 projects, if I'm not mistaken. I wrote 29, Lost in Translation, and Blissful Awareness. I think all 3 came out this year, if not 2 of them. And much like Tech 9 and Logic, I don't know how this guy finds the time to do all this stuff. Like, a lot of rappers talk about not sleeping, or, you know, all these kind of lyrics to talk about, like, having time to sleep or whatever, working through their sleep. This guy must not sleep because he's just constantly putting out music.
Mm-hmm.
and it's loaded with lyrics, just like somewhat fast rap, very dense, very lyrically, serious. I almost want to compare him to Kendrick just because of the vibe of it. It's something like you can sit back and kind of chill to, but also really think about.
Mm-hmm.
Two tracks that really jumped out at me were The Escape, which I think was the leading track on Blissful Awareness, and Someone. Someone is one of my favorite tracks of the year. The sample in it I thought was tremendously produced into the instrumental, and just like the vibe of it, his flow. I almost want to say it was like a Denzel Curry kind of power to it.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't know how much I can speak on it. It's something that takes a while to digest, but very impressive projects from KAAN, who I've always been a fan of. He's always putting out projects, and I definitely think one of the most underrated rappers at this point. There's like this many projects deep.
Yeah, I don't listen to him often. I've listened to a few tracks referred by you. So I'm just gonna have to check out some of those. He hasn't been on my radar this year. So, but that's the kind of the point of this podcast, is to introduce us to new music and to introduce other people to this type of music. So
yeah, get that exposure going.
Definitely gonna check it out.
Just one more album I'd say that I really liked, and you might touch upon this too, but Mr. Hood, Ace Hood.
Yeah.
Huge Ace Hood fan right here.
Yeah.
I was listening to the track Practice the other day, watching a music video for it, which it came out a while back, but I still can't get over how insane of a track that is. I sent it your way, I think.
Yeah, you did.
It's just like, it's one of my favorite music videos.
Which ones did you save off of Mr. Hood?
Off of Mr. Hood? You know what's funny? I was going through your Spotify playlist, and I saved like all the same exact ones. Like, I swear to God, all the same stuff that you saved.
My favorite track that I keep going back to is Casino. Yeah, it's got somebody that I've never heard on it, Alex Dynamics.
Right. No, I hadn't heard of him before.
Hadn't heard of him. He, Ace Hood, I don't know if he has the same connections that he did when he was in his prime, you know what I mean? Which is probably like somewhere between probably early 2010s. So I think he's a little out of touch with mainstream rap, but he can still make a banger nonetheless.
100%. Yeah, he can ride off of some pretty contemporary beats. Like, if you go to track 13, like Confident, I feel like the beat, it feels like a 2 Chainz beat.
Yeah.
And
I saved that one too.
His flow is like very different off of it though. It's like his kind of flow, but off of a new school kind of beat.
Mm-hmm.
Popovich, very new school rap stuff.
So good.
Just epic stuff. What a way to wrap up an album. Casino had a cool, like, dark kind of vibe. Like, I think a lot of music has either like a daylight vibe or a nighttime vibe, and Casino is like a very nighttime vibe.
Yeah, good point.
Solid knock out the park by Mr. Hood yet again. So
yeah,
always good to hear what he's dropping.
It is always good.
Yeah. Singles, COVID Mansion, Hobson. That was my favorite Hobson track to come out this year. He's one of my favorite artists. Never disappoints. The music video was sick.
Yeah, he's been putting out some good music video treatments.
Yeah. Kumbaya, I want to say, is like one of the most unique rap videos I've seen in a minute. COVID Mansion is a track I keep going back to, so definitely like top 5 track of the year for me. Whoa is one that I went back to from earlier. Like, I didn't talk much about My Turn by Lil Baby, but I kept listening to that for the past few months. I thought that album might be the best album of 2020, honestly.
Yeah.
Lil Baby's and the track Whoa just jumps out to me like crazy. Walk 'Em Down, NLE.
NLE, yeah.
Yeah, that also I think came out earlier in this year, but something I kept going back to. Super solid. I already mentioned Someone by KAAN. Moana, it's another track
Moana, fire.
Super catchy.
Ridiculous.
Like, one of those, like, you're already rapping the hook or singing along to the chorus.
One listen through.
3 listens, yeah. One listen through even. So that's not easy to do. 2 more singles I would definitely wanted to mention. Live Forever by Kid Ink. Probably slipped a bunch of people's radar, but
yeah.
I didn't expect Kid Ink to drop like a really good serious record. But I thought it was a really epic sound, and it, his emotion came through, a seriousness. I think that was one of the first tracks I heard where he talked about like quarantining and what he's been doing in terms of like meditation and, you know, looking inside himself more seriously, which like a lot of people were kind of talking about during the beginning of quarantine season. So very good reflective track and great sound to it as well. And then 2020 Vision, I know you'll probably jump in a Red Flu at some point, but Young M.A., but she continues to impress. 2020 Vision was one of the better, I think that was the last track on her Red Flu record, and that was a single. So just nuts both. I want to say the beat especially, like definitely one of the best beats that I've heard this year, 2020 Vision. But she's really good at picking that stuff and just has that really hard, gritty New York sound to it. So that's always amazing. And then if I could mention a couple quick other ones, the Will and Lotto remixes by Joyner Lucas. We've always been fans of Joyner.
Yeah, really working that remix game.
Yeah, definitely. And I continue to be impressed by the people he works with, you know, just
me too.
Guy coming from Massachusetts. I'm really proud of him up there, you know, holding his weight or whatever. Last point, KAAN's album, I was a fan of. Not a huge R&B guy, but I think it's worth mentioning. I did like her past albums. In fact, I think Sweet Sexy Savage is what I think it's called. Was my favorite album by her, and I think it's still my favorite album by her. But this one was still a really good one. And tracks that really jumped out to me were Can I, which is featuring Tory Lanez.
I really love that one.
Water had a super epic sound to it. Like definitely one of my favorite songs this year. Amazing, just like innovative kind of sound. And then Open Passionate was like, I think one of the closing tracks. Also really stuck with me. I'll be going back to that a lot. So big ups to KAAN.
That was awesome. A lot of good music. I'm really, really glad that you were able to spout off all of that. That means it was a good time for listening to music.
Yeah, I mean, if it feels like I don't want to leave anything out, like if because I have to leave out some projects, but if there's some that I keep in and I want to mention, that means definitely had a good couple of months of music, some quality stuff dropped.
Yeah, we love that. We love that for sure.